So the group scenario, the questions that I've been getting from you guys is basically, how do I get people from those groups into my tribe? Now, I have already gone through some of this in a previous live that I did, which will be up in my new free membership, which is coming soon, which will be in there anyway, so you can go back and watch it. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing around networking in groups because we've already been through that, but I'm going to give you some solid examples and some solid information on finally clearing up how it is that you go about getting somebody from a group into your tribe. Now, the first question is that group someone you are in direct competition with? Because if it is in direct competition, I would suggest that maybe you find a different group potentially, because if you're feeling icky, if you're holding back, then you're never going to make any progress in there. So the best places to be are places where your ideal clients are hanging out, but you and the leader have some kind of synergy together versus butting heads and actually being in competition. That's the best scenario. So if you are in a group where you have that, relationship where there's a synergy, they do this kind of specialism, you do your specialism, and it's all good. And someone mentioned something about having a diverse niche. Actually, the more diverse you are, the more you're going to step on somebody's toes. So the more niche you are, the easier it is to pull yourself into a blue ocean and not actually be in direct competition with people. So find your specialism. And so this is why it always comes back to that. When you find your specialism, it affects your whole business, and it makes opportunities so much easier, and it makes finding out who you're speaking to so much easier. It clears up all of the mess of, I don't know where they are, I don't know who they are, I don't know what to say. All of those 3 W's are cleared up as soon as you have real clarity on your specialism. That's the best way to do this. So you've got your specialism, they've got their specialism, the synergy. You go in there, right? So there's no stepping on toes. There isn't really any ickiness aside from you not wanting to appear like a people harvester, going into somebody's group, PMing everybody in there saying, hey, do you want to join mine? Now, let's be honest, that's proper spammy. Okay, let's pretend that this particular group has they allow you to promote. So you go in there and you go, hey, I've got a great group that you could come and join. Icky, like, okay, I've got somewhere better for you to be. Why don't you come and join this? Again, it feels icky, right? And this is the thing, is that asking somebody if they would like to join your group is a little bit like asking people, would you like to join my crummy newsletter list? And I know that's probably going to sting a few people who are offering to people to sign up to their newsletter. On the whole, people don't want to sign up to newsletters, okay? They just spent however long unsubscribing from many different, lists and newsletters. They don't want that. And it's not very specific. Like, when they sign up to your newsletter, what are they going to get? So if you are offering people a newsletter, I would suggest that you should change the wording of it. Change the wording of your newsletter to tell them about the result that they're going to get when they sign up. That's why people want to join something. It's because what's in it for them. So if they're going to join your list, what will they be getting specifically? Not just a newsletter. No one's like, the old version of a newsletter is something really dull, right? And so we need to start being a bit more creative about what we call that thing and being more specific about what they're going to be getting. Going back to the group thing, it's very much the same. Come and join yet another group where it's going to take up your time. And it does. Being in groups does take up time. It's another piece of information to consume, because assuming that the group is going to be active and that the person leading the group is going to be doing something in there, they're going to have to be alert, pay attention. To take any value from it, they're going to have to be consuming some kind of content, right? So again, when you're giving the opportunity for people to join your group, and I don't suggest you do that in somebody else's group, unless, for instance, they've provided the space to do so. Caveat there. If they like we did yesterday, okay? If they provided the space to do so, then cool, it's like an open invitation, right? Fine, cool. But even in that circumstance, like I said in the post, make sure that you actually tell people why they should be. What have you got going on in there next week that might be able to help them? What live training do you have going on? Is there an exclusive workbook or ebook or checklist or something that they can get if they join your group? give people an incentive. So don't just go ahead and just ask blandly, would you like to? Well, not really, depends. Like, what am I going to get out of this? Why should I? And explain who it is that you want in there to make sure that you're getting the right people in, which is why everything has to be specific. Be specific about who you want in there. When you put out an opt-in, be specific about who it helps and what problem it helps with, to make sure that you get the right people into your tribe, so that when you go to sell to them, they're already primed and right and cool to be going, yeah, absolutely, that's my problem. That's why I downloaded your thing in the first place. That sounds exactly like what I need, because what you're now offering me as a program package product is exactly in line with what you've offered me to begin with. So the journey makes sense. And now you're leading people through your client journey and your funnel to help them actually buy from you. Okay. So be specific on everything that you offer. Don't be generic. As soon as you're generic, you're going to be potentially getting nobody or randoms. That's just the way it is. So, okay, hang on, just going back to what I was talking about. So getting people from groups, right? Okay, so unless they've supplied the space. Now, if we're assuming now that the group doesn't allow promotion, because if it allows promotion, then it's kind of the obvious thing, guys, that you should be like actively using that. Now, I don't suggest that you actively use it to promote paid stuff. I suggest you use those opportunities to grow your tribe, because it's unlikely that people will buy from you like that. They need to see that you are an authority on your topic and that you know what you're talking about. And that generally happens when they come into your space where you dominate that space and you position yourself as that authority and as that expert. Then they'll be more likely to buy from you. So pull them into your tribe, and that's the best way to do it. So if they allow you to promote your free stuff to get them into your tribe, and that's when you can take them through the nurture process and turn them into clients, right? But that's for another day. So let's assume that the group we're talking about doesn't allow any kind of promotion at all, but you complement each other, there's a synergy, it's all good, there's no stepping on toes really. Why not offer to do a guest expert spotlight and then either use your group, which it depends. If you're so far away from each other that it still works, then cool. If you're slightly overlapping, my suggestion would be, the less icky way of doing it would be to offer an opt-in. Okay, so you give them an opt-in of some kind where they go onto your list, and once they're onto your list, then you can get them to join your group, so that it doesn't feel so icky. You know, it's a very quick and easy trick to do. So rather than just go straight for the group, why not go list to group? That's a better way of doing it. Or even if it's to join a challenge, make it something specific other than I've got a better party out down the road. Like, make it specific, because then it's not stepping on someone else's toes. So for whatever your complementing thing is, use that specifically to draw people in, because the leader's going to be a lot happier about that than you know, directly taking people and harvesting people. So don't go into a group and assume that everybody in that group, because they're your ideal client, wants to join your group, and then PM them all. Just don't do it. So I've had a lot of questions about how do I actually invite them over into it. Best tip you can have on inviting people over into your space is look out for the people who specifically have your problems. So you're going to be in those groups and you're going to be looking out for ways and means, not just this, right? Because as I said in my networking live, you also want to be adding value in terms of just being a human inside of a group, not just pouncing on people when they have a problem, because that's just ick, right? So if you're silent in a group and suddenly someone has a problem and you're like, boom, I'm in there, people don't like that, because groups are communities, and they want to feel like they're in a group full of people who kind of like care about each other. And so show some caring, you know, even if you are going in there specifically for that, it's the first time, show a bit of empathy first, rather than just here's the info. It's like, oh, hi, hello, sorry, didn't know who you were, or you haven't even said hi, but you've just given me a ton of advice. Like, that's one way to turn people right off. So actually introduce yourself and say, hi, you know, this is what I do. This is how I normally serve my clients and what I help them with. And this is my biggest tip on this particular topic. Okay. Give them your gold publicly. Don't go, I'll PM you. Oh, I said this in my networking one, but please don't do that. Just publicly say, this is my tips. And also other people can see that you know what you're talking about as well. So it's really helpful to actually do this kind of publicly, and then let them know that you have more information on that particular topic. When you let them know that you've got more information on that particular topic, that could be that you just have more information. It could be something more specific, like, oh, I've got a workbook on that, or I've got, you know, or I do this, or whatever it is. But let them know that you've got more info to be had, and that if they would like it, to just let you know. I've used this on many occasions. Works really well, because then they're like, oh yeah, that would be great, thanks. And I'll go, cool, just PM me your email address and I'll make sure that gets over to you. Done. Like, that's how you get people. So rather than, sometimes it's about not going group to group, sometimes it's about going, you know, group to list, and then list to group. From the list, and again, when they're on your list and you invite them over into the group, when you email them to say, okay, here's your freebie and whatever else, and this is another tip, you know, how do I get people into my group, is through your opt-in. And you can do this in many different ways, but you know, on the thank you page after they've downloaded the opt-in could be, great, now you've done that, why not join my group too, and give them the reasons why they should be joining your group, and give them the option on the thank you page. You could also give them the option to join a group on the email that you deliver the opt-in on. So now you've delivered, you know, you've got this. If you have any questions on this or want to delve more into the topic, why not join my group and get them to join your group from that delivery email? So there are so many different ways in which you can do it. If growing your group is your main priority, let's be a bit savvy about this, and let's be congruent in where you want to take people into. You want to be picking 2 spaces to be pulling people into, and 2 examples of that could be onto your list and into your Facebook group. That could be where you want to funnel people into. In my experience, they're the 2 best places. I always think your email list should be one place that you definitely want to be funneling people into and building your tribe on, because if you don't build a list, as we all know, whatever else you're doing, it generally isn't your audience. Someone could whip it away from you like that. You don't kind of have ownership over those people. So it's really important to grow your list and another space. So just bear that in mind, that whatever ones you pick, make your list one of them. I strongly suggest that you do that. But make it your point of contact. If the group is somewhere where you want people to be, just make it your focus. There are so many places that you can add links to your group. Like I said last time, your cover photo, you can get people in through that way. And you know, you guys are saying, you know, how when you're in groups and you're networking and whatever else, and I'm hoping people will just click through. You know, in essence, you kind of are in a way, but you can really help that process along by being an expert in your field and adding value. So this is something that I've seen stop recently. And the reason is because it starts to feel a bit icky, and a lot of people have shunned people who have come in and offer value. So they will come into a group and they will just shout at people. So this is a biggie. This is a biggie now. When you are posting on your page versus your group, there is a very different vibe as to how you would do both. Your page is like a broadcast. So it's like a broadcast of information, and it can sound sometimes a little bit pitchy, but it suits that platform, because it's like, generally can start with a question. Are you feeling da 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 da? Why not blah blah blah? And it sounds a little bit markety. I always try and shun away from things like that and add a bit of personality into them anyway, so it makes it sound less slogany. But either way, they are going to be more broadcasty because you're broadcasting it out to a lot of people. Now, when you're speaking in a group and you want to add value, don't just copy and paste and post into a group because you think, oh, that's a great value post, I'll stick that in there. Because people want to be treated like you're actually talking to them. So if you if you wandered up to somebody who, let's say at an exhibition, right? So you're at an exhibition that makes total sense to the niche that you're in and your industry, and you just went up to them and went, hey, do you feel blah blah blah? They're like, oh God, like, hi. Again, it's that thing of, are you going to be a human or are you going to be a robotic blog spurter, right? Because the way you would write in a blog is very different to how you'd have a conversation with somebody. And groups are all about conversation, they're about community, they're about connection. So if you just start off like your value post into a group like you do on your page, it's not going to be met with very much engagement and or indeed much connection at all. A better way to post a value post into a group, which again, just to go back to my point, I'd still suggest you use value posts. They're really important. They do position you as an expert. They do position you as an authority on your topic, as long as you're posting about what you do. Okay, so that's really important. I see so many people, I post there all the time, but it's got nothing to do with what you do as you know, in your niche. So even if you did get somebody who checked you out from that post and then came into your group, they're not going to be in there for the right reasons. They're going to be in there because of what they saw. You can't control when people are going to see you, but you can control what people see of you. And so that's really important. Whatever you're writing, try and connect it on value posts, connect it back to what you do. And obviously we need to be careful here that we're not trivializing perhaps like world disasters, right? So if, for instance, there's a world or national disaster that's gone on and we try and connect our, I don't know, our trivial issue to what's going on in the world, that can piss a lot of people off. It's going to make people feel like you're trivializing what's going on. It really has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Okay, but let's just take me for an example. Like I just, you know, I broadcast at the very beginning of this live that I don't know about how to build tons and tons of people. I was very explicit about that, but I do know how to build a very quality audience and monetize them. I know how to do that. So that's how I'm going to connect that topic. It's, you know, there's no loose connection. It's very much valid. It's not tenuous. It's a very strong connection. So sometimes there are topics and things that are just best left alone. Sometimes it's not for you to comment on. At least not to comment on in terms of pulling it back as a way to kind of promote your authority on a topic. I hope you get what I'm saying here. So just be mindful of that kind of common sense. There was a point I was making just before I went on to that. Value posts. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to position yourself as an authority on that topic, but stick to your specialism and go in there. But don't start it off with a broadcast. Start it off with, hey, I've noticed you guys have been talking a lot about this topic. And I thought it would be really helpful if I came in here and gave you a couple of my top tips on the subject. How much nicer is that than a marketing slogan that kind of shouts at people instead of talks to people? It's so much nicer. But as long as you're bringing some kind of humanism to what you're doing inside of a group, you're going to get much better engagement, and it's going to connect with people, and people are going to feel more inclined to speak back to you because you're actually talking to them instead of just blurting at them. I hope that makes sense. So that's one of the best tips I can give you inside of groups. Position yourself as an authority. Feel free to give your value, but do it in a way that actually speaks to people. And talk in a way of confidence, talk in a way of, you know, as an expert. You know, promotion is not allowed in the majority of groups, but there is no reason why you can't talk about what you do. Like, don't be so afraid that you feel like you can't do it. Generally, promotion means, like, at the end of the post, if you said, and you can download my opt-in on this here, then, and give the link, then that's promotion. But showing that you know a lot about the topic, and invite people, if you have any more specific questions around this, I'd be totally happy to answer them for you. I know that so-and-so, insert leader of the group, has, you know, might have their own stuff and whatever else. Just include the whole group, respect the leader, you know. And this is why being in a group where you are not in direct competition is much better, because if you are doing that, if you are posting authoritative and value posts in direct competition with that group leader, let's not beat around the bush. That could be very, very icky. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise, and people may have a different opinion on this. I know people have a very hard line of, well, competition is competition. But if someone came in here and completely disregarded what I do around niche, and which has happened, and started to post content slandering my content that was in direct different opinion to me. It's my group, this is my space, don't come in and piss on it, right? And I know other group leaders will feel the same thing. I've got no problem people coming in here and adding value, but let's not try and piss off the leader, is I guess what I'm trying to say, right? So just be mindful of where you're hanging out, and don't be afraid to position yourself as an expert. Don't be afraid to talk about what you do and the fact that you are an expert in your field. And don't be afraid to offer people more things, like invite versus tell, okay? So if you've had direct conversations with people, don't be afraid to say, hey, I've got more information on this, but try and do it in the less icky way of group to list to your group. That would be the better way of doing it, so that you don't feel so icky.